Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today, which is day one of the 10th annual Leicester Human Rights Arts and Film Festival. For today, we are focusing on the theme honoring the dead, and we are asking questions like, how do we as individuals, communities, and nations memorialize, honor, and remember people who've died through man-made causes, catastrophes, armed conflict, mass atrocities, genocide, policing, immigration enforcement, and more. And we are also asking, how do we talk about, remember, honor, and memorialize these people? And why do we do it? And with what effect? Joining us for the conversation this evening, we've got Sara, who is an Egyptian visual artist and a graduate from the Faculty of Fine Arts at Helwan University. Sara has been living in Glasgow until July 21, has been living in Glasgow since July 2021, where she participates in the Maryhill Integration Art Group and in workshops and events as a volunteer. We've also got Bethlehem Tesfu Estifanos, who is a dedicated advocate for human rights, public health, and sustainable development. Bethlehem is also the festival coordinator for the Addis International Film Festival on Human Rights with Initiative Africa, and she serves as the vice president of Girl Up Addis Ababa, which focuses on addressing gender-based issues related to physical and mental health. And our third speaker is Sarah Kenyon Lisha, an associate professor in political science at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem in the US. Sarah is the author of Dangerous Sanctuaries, Refugee Camps, Civil War, and the Dilemmas of Humanitarian Aid, which was published by Cornell University Press. Her current research focuses on public memory and justice following human rights atrocities and includes the article Narrating Atrocity, Genocide Memorials, Dark Tourism, and the Politics of Memory, which was published in the Review of International Studies. So with those introductory comments from me, I turn to our speakers. Is there anything in that introduction that you'd like to add? I think we start with Sarah, and then Bethlehem and Sarah. Sarah Kenyon.
For me, no addition. I'm okay. I can speak only my speech now. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Bethlehem?
Yes, you actually mentioned it very well. And yeah, from my side as well. There's nothing to add.
And Sarah?
I could add what I teach. I teach undergraduate students, and I work with them on international conflict resolution. I'm teaching a course on humanitarian ethics and a course on civil wars, and I do a seminar on human rights and public memory with my students. And I also do work on the ethics of research, especially for Westerners who are traveling abroad to do research in post-atrocity countries or in war zones, things like that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So maybe we go on and look at some of these things that we are memorializing and thinking about. What are you seeing from where you are? What is happening? what needs to change? How can this change come about? And in this, I'm asking about the deaths that are taking place around the world and the context in which the deaths are occurring. What are you seeing?
We've seen a lot, actually. We've seen a lot. It's a very difficult time, so I think all of us, we've seen a lot.
What are some of those things that you've seen that bother you the most?
Yeah, part of what's happening right now, it reminds me in my childhood, because the first intifada and second intifada. So I can see that now, but it's something else right now, because nowadays it's very hard to know all the details. Maybe before we don't have this opportunity to know all the details like nowadays, but now it's different. It's very heavy. And I'm so honored to have this opportunity to share my thoughts in this difficult time with all of you, actually. So we gathered with heavy hearts to remember and honor the countless lives lost because of genocide. And I'm here as a human being before being proud that I am Egyptian, African, and Arab citizen. Because of I grew up knowing about the true history of Palestine, the injustice that the Palestinians' brothers and sisters are facing every day since 1948 by the occupation regime. This regime committed a lot of war crimes and massacres. Start with Deir Yassin, Bahr al-Baqar, El Tantura, all the ways to Gaza now. So actually, I wrote a lot of notes to speak with all of you. I know a lot about Tantura, Bahr al-Baqar, Deir Yassin, Sabra, Shatila, all of this, till Gaza now. Stealing Palestinians' land, killing innocent civilians and kids, arresting children under the age of 10 and putting them in the prison. Nowadays, they killed more than 20,000 civilians. Most of them are children and kids. And no one knows yet the huge true number of killed people under the rebels. So it's a creature that unite to ensure that the memories of innocent people that departed are not buried with them. Because genocide is a stain of conscience of humanity. It reminds us of our failure to protect pure souls from Native American to Native Australians to Jewish people in Germany to Gaza now. The names and places may be different, yeah, but the pain and loss remains the same. So in honoring the dead, it's our duty to perpetuating their memories through artistic works, as they deserve to be remembered. And this is the most important point. They deserve to be remembered. They are not just numbers. They have families, they had dreams, they had ones who loved them and mean for them a whole world for them. They had cities, streets, and life to live. But what happened? It's something else. So I influenced by the current events happening to Palestinian people in Gaza, and there is some scenes that engraved in my memory, and really I can't get out of them, making them too hard to forget. And I tried as much as I can I attempt to represent them in my drawing and artworks. So that's all.
What are some of the things that you're seeing that you found particularly affecting?
I can share them with you. They're already beside me right now. I started to draw when I felt that I really can't do anything except speaking, sharing some posters, I study history all my life, not only arts. So I know everything about this land. I know the history of this land even before Prophet Ibrahim born, from Canaanian civilization and Phoenix civilization everything, even before Idris and Noah and his ark and the Prophet Idris. So I know all the history about most of the old civilization in the world. And to be artist, I have to study the most old civilization is the more like 10 civilization, 10 old civilization in the world. So I know all of that, but although that I cannot do anything. What I'm going through from my childhood, from Intifada to Iraq War to all of this stuff, and I'm still can do anything. So now, after I become graduated and I have a tool in my hand to do anything, so I made some sketches and I can share them with you right now. I started with this one actually. So it's okay to share them here?
Yes, yes, yes.
I started with this one. And I try to put some names of killed people. So I just choose through randomly and I do this sketch. Then I made this one. It's the most favorite one actually, because that boy and his eyes engraved in my memory, I think forever it will remain forever. And I try to draw him in maybe in different way. It actually comes from my heart. So this boy, this child, and his look, it means a lot to me actually. I can see all the injustice in this world in his eyes. And I draw him again here in different way with ink. And I have some another sketches like this one. I'm a mother for two kids, and this mother, I will never forget her. I will never forget her. Even her hidden voices to speak to everyone, leave me right now. I can never get out from this scene. So I draw her like that with Palestinians colors flag. And I have this sketch as well. For the grandfather who speak to his little child that she was the soul of my soul. I draw him as well in this quick sketch. And the other and last one, but it will not be the last, so but the last till now, so far I mean, for the journalist, his name is I think I don't have the sketch right now, but his name is Wa'el Dahdouh, who lost all of his family during covering some news in the TV, and he knows that all of his family, all of his kids are dead. So in this time, he said an Arab word, it called malish. Malish, there is no translation for word malish in English. There is no translation for it. But the most closest one is it's okay. But actually, it's not like it's okay. I said it's the closest one, but it's not like that. So we all in this area know malish word. But in this time, we heard malish as a new word. It has a new name, a new meaning, malish, in this situation. So I will never forget this malish.
It's looking at your drawings. The drawings are it almost sounds wrong to say that your drawings are beautiful.
Thank you.
Given the topic, the nature of the topic you're looking at. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. How about you, Bethlehem? What are you seeing?
First, I have to speak on Zara's speech. It was a very touching one, and you are really a talented artist. I really loved what you did. Like, you expressed your emotions in a very artistic way. And I was really surprised, and I was like seeing, and I was like, oh. I don't know how. You just poured all your emotion in it, and it's very touching. Well, as we reflect on the days occurring globally, particularly in conflict zone like Gaza, it is like essential to comprehend the diverse context leading to such tragic event. As we see, like the armed conflict, the border issues, and immigration crisis contributing to this devastating loss. And, to bring about change, we must address the root cause. That's what I believe, and advocate for diplomacy and ensure the protection of human rights in these challenging circumstances. And the days in conflict zones are a stark reminder for the urgent need for international cooperation. Like every nation have to come in hand. This is not something that's happening in one place and we have to forget it. It's like there's a story about a frog. He saw a village on fire because he was near to the water. He thought, oh, it's fine. It's them who is burning. As long as I'm here, I'm safe. But this, fire comes around and it destroys everybody, and the frog died in the end. So I believe this will happen to everybody, and the resolution for underlining geopolitical issues is also important. And the days we witnessed globally demands our attention and action. And especially as a person who is involved in human rights, and especially in film festivals, you are entertaining people at the same time educating them. And I believe that festivals and this kind of human rights organizations play a very crucial role in this. And we have to be the voice, like art, every kind of entertainment, everybody have to speak in their own language. It's not just politics, it's everybody who have to attend, just like Zara did with her pictures. We in the film festival industry, the one who coordinate, we have to speak in our own way. That's how we make change. And beyond this event, we must engage in open dialogues. That is one, like this one that we're having, and promote peace building initiatives and address the structural issues that perpetuate this tragedy. And democracy, collaboration, and the protection of human rights are paramount in preventing future loss for our lives, as we also like cherish and remember the people that we lost. We're all humans at the end, and those people have families, they have dreams. And as a young person living in Gaza, I can really understand somebody who have future to change their lives and suddenly everything is collapsing. It's you lose the meaning of even living. And I cannot really, like, we have to see their mental health as well. With the physical one, we have seen it and it was very crushing, but those who are living are literally suffering inside out. And this is what I have to say.
Thank you very much, Bethlehem. But how about you, Sarah?
Thank you both, Sarah and Bethlehem. Those were very eloquent, and the art is really moving. My research draws on field research in Bosnia and Cambodia and Rwanda, where I have talked to survivors and gone to memorials and studied how they're designed and things like that. But what I'm thinking of from listening to you both is that so much of the trauma and results of the genocide are intergenerational. And so memorials and art and stories are all meant to communicate through the generations, because also the pain and the trauma travels through the generations, even to people who weren't even born when it occurred. And so all of these things are ways of telling a story about what happened. And there's really no other way to talk about these things. Art tells a story, film, stories. And so part of the tragedy is that they repeat themselves over and over, and there's no better place to see that than in Palestine and currently in Gaza. And it's the way I look at it is the way that severe family dysfunction leads to generations of troubles and grief in that family. And it's the same thing that happens in a land that's been traumatized. And just from my personal travels and research and conversations, it's really evident that entire countries can be traumatized. And when we think about healing or communicating or reconciling, it's hard to even imagine it on the scale of the pain and trauma that has affected that entire society. And a lot of genocidal action or human rights atrocities has the intention of doing that, of creating generations of brokenness. When we have sexual violence as part of a strategy of conflict, and pregnancies that result from that, or HIV that results from that, all of that adds to the humiliation of the society, in addition to the just the regular physical pain. And Bethlehem was talking about mental health aspects as well. And so we certainly have seen that in Rwanda. And I think it compares then, we can think about what's going on in the current areas as well, in terms of how do we think about that while it's happening now? And then what might that lead us to want to do or advocate for, or to prepare for? Decades after the Rwandan genocide, the entire society and the families of survivors and the families of the dead also are widely afflicted with trauma. There was a survey that said 90% of the Tutsi alive during that time saw people being murdered. I mean, and we're seeing that now also in other places. And there can't be a way to escape that generational trauma without a real effort. And the activists and the artists and the filmmakers are ones that are doing that. I write about it and do my best, but I think the people that are there and experiencing it have a greater insight. I remember listening to a young woman in Bosnia who was like in her 20s, but she had been 6 years old during the siege of Sarajevo. And instead of attending school, she was fetching water through the sniper's alley, and her mother was too ill to go out and get the water. And she said, I was too young to understand, but I was too old to forget. So this age where somebody's in trauma like that, and then she grows up with that, creates a society that is still very much suffering. And I see this pattern playing out in other places where violence spans generation, obviously amongst Palestinians, and in Afghanistan also, you've had generations of refugees since 1979. And so what I'm interested in looking into that and talk to people about how to remember it, especially when it's still going on today, that remembrance is not something of the past. In fact, it's sort of how we're dealing with it today. And I'll be interested in hearing more what everybody has to say as we go on. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So maybe if we just, zoom out a little bit and think of genocides and mass atrocities, and also some of the deaths that are taking place. For example, one that has been affecting me for a very long time are the deaths that are taking place at borders, where, for example, what happened in Tunisia, where especially African people were pushed to the desert and were left to die there of thirst, heat exhaustion, starvation, and the European Commission is actually funding the Tunisians in that. And then there's also what's happening in and around the Mediterranean, where mainly African people, mainly non-Christian people, people from Asian, Middle Eastern countries are drowning in the seas around Europe, and Europe is letting them drown. And there's also conflict in the DRC, where a lot of people are dying. How did we get there? This is for all of you. Maybe we start with Bethlehem and then Sarah, and come to you, Sarah.
Sorry, Ambrose, my network is cutting out. Can you repeat for me?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the deaths that are taking place around the world. These are mainly deaths that can be prevented, deaths that are taking place at borders, at sea, especially the seas around Europe, also in conflicts like the ones that are taking place in the DRC, and also what's happening in Palestine, what has happened in Kosovo, Bosnia, and I'm asking, how did we get here? Why are these things happening in this time that we are in? I thought we had moved on. I thought we had the resources, the awareness to know when mass atrocities are potentially taking place, but they are still happening. And institutions and organizations like the EU, countries like Britain, like the United States, are involved in those deaths. And I'm asking, why? How did we get here? What's happening?
From my perspective, I believe after COVID, we are more connected and we hear everything that's happening, every little thing, every big and little thing. So I believe those things have been happening before, but we couldn't hear them as much as we do now because of the technology, social media, everything. Now we are more connected, that we are more sensitive to these issues because every little thing that's happening, we are hearing them and it's coming collectively. Back in the days, I believe we would see them on news or in certain areas, but now everybody is speaking about it. So we hear everything. And that's how we are getting more awareness than we used to do before, I believe. Yeah, and that's what I believe. And with the international organizations, I cannot speak actually what's happening in a sense of what's reported to us is that they're providing help and also aid, and it have also political aspect, which is a very complicated one. And why it is aggravated now with what's happening in Gaza with DRC and everything is like we're hearing about it and everybody's speaking about it. When you open your social media, it's there, on your news, it's there. Now you have more access for information than before.
Yeah, so the awareness is there, yes, but But why are these deaths still taking place? In your view, in your thought, why do you think?
In my opinion, I will say that these days are happening because of the benefit of certain groups or bodies, I may say. It can be a country, or it can be some influential people. For us, we see in DRC, it's happening because of a metal that we want to create electric cars and other things just to benefit just to solve some problem, we are creating another. And every conflict that's happening is in terms of everybody saying we are solving something, which we are burning more. So yeah, I would say it is for the benefit of a country or an individual or a group that have a higher power than the other one. And I think that's why we have to defend as a human rights activists, advocates, and artists.
How about you, Sarah? What are your thoughts?
Sara, you mean me or?
Yes, you.
Okay. I think I'm agree with her because as I told you before when I speak first that there is difference between what happened when I was a child. I don't have more materials like now. I don't have anything in my hand to do. Even I wasn't a good artist. I just was a kid who had, like my kids now drawing some stuff. It's very tiny, but it means a lot for them. So for me as well. But now it's different because of social media, and it's easy to know the truth. And I think not only think, I believe that all of that thing starts with injustice. And the only solution, in my opinion, to solve any problem, to give the people justice. It's not, and I wanted to mention something specific about Palestinian people, Palestinian refugees. They are really different rather than any refugees in any place in the world. Specifically Palestinian people, only them in this world who has different situation, because a lot of refugees in around the world from different countries, but their own countries, even if it's still occupied, but it has the same name till now, the same people. No one tried to change this land history. Yeah, just try to take apart, or like normal occupations that we studied in our boxes before, but what happening in Palestinian land is different, because when they occupied this land, they changed its name and tried to change its history. And this is the point. And when Palestinians get out from their land, they talk it more and more and more. So if they get out from Gaza, yeah, we have a sentence in Egypt. We said in Egypt we have like 5 million refugees from a lot of countries around Middle East, like Iraq, Libya, Syria, and a lot of countries, actually, Yemen. But we it's okay. They totally welcome. We don't have any problems, and we have a Egyptian sentence. I have to translate it literally. Actually, it called "They are above our head." It's like a kind of welcoming. We don't have any problem. We don't even call them refugee. We can't say that. You can ask anyone in Syria who live in Egypt. We Egyptian, they not actually call them refugees. He said brothers. Refugee in Egypt, it's like, yeah, it's like not offensive word, but it's not familiar word to speak about our neighbors. We never said that. So for Palestinian people, they are above our heads. But the point is, if they get out their land, they will never return back again. And this is the point. Because of that, only the Palestinians refugee will be different rather than any refugees else around the world. I think a lot of people, when they speak about refugees and what can we do for a Palestinian refugee, they never mention this point because they don't want to be refugees. To be a refugee is okay. Anyone might be a refugee. I might be a refugee one day. Anyone might be a refugee one day, because not only because of wars and occupation. It might be because of earthquake or volcano. A lot of stuff can make anyone a refugee around the world. And it's totally fine because we all humans, we can complete each other, we can help each other, it's fine. But for Palestinians, it's different. Yeah, we want to give them everything, but in the same time, we can't do anything. So this is my point.
How about you, Sarah? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah, for that distinction. That's really helpful, and I totally agree with you. Some of what you were talking about, Ambrose, is things that are happening at borders. You talked about the Tunisians, the ship sinking as people are trying to get to Europe. There are many deaths of people trying to get from Central and South America up to the US border. It's a very dangerous passage. And it's really, well, I don't know. It's very sad how you say, why are we still doing this? Why is this still happening? I thought we had moved beyond it. And as a political scientist, what I'm seeing is this return to this sort of far-right populism that's making a scapegoat out of outsiders. So that certainly we're seeing it in Europe, we've seen it in the US, Britain, where they are creating dangerous false ideas about migrants, based, quite a lot on racism and ethnocentrism, so that they can say, oh, here's our problem, it's over there, basically to kind of tell people, don't look at what I'm doing at home. And also, I think there's this strategy these leaders are using to blame the victims, the people that are dying and the families. They say, well, you haven't made it to Europe. Maybe it was your fault for getting on that crowded boat, or you haven't made it to the Arizona border. Why did you try to take your child on that difficult passage? Rather than saying, how desperate must someone be if they're willing to risk that? If that looks better than where they are, their situation has to be truly horrible. And it seems to be working fairly successfully on drawing out these anti-migration feelings or stoking them. I'm not really sure how the leaders are managing to do this so successfully, but there's a lot of lies and misinformation too. I mean, if you talk to people in the US, they'll say, oh yeah, I looked on Fox News and it said Al-Qaeda is coming in through the southern border. Like, no, that's not true. It's Guatemalans who are desperately fleeing conflict. So that seems to be part of what it is to me. And I thought we would move in a more progressive fashion as well, rather than going back to this old, putting up the walls and keeping people out. It's pretty distressing to watch.
And staying with you, how are people in the United States? How much attention do people pay when deaths like this okay? And also, how are artists responding?
Oh, those are good questions. Like your average US population is probably not really paying very much attention. They get very drawn in by things like inflation or social issues, identity politics. And then they think of people coming in on the southern border or people dying in the sea coming from Libya, really not as a central issue to them in their lives, But I think artists are certainly much different, and we have so many diaspora populations in the US that you can actually have some very, very powerful, moving plays and art and photography exhibits, things like that, where the folks who are looking to understand can find information that will kind of help them understand or help show people how they might act or advocate on their behalf. But mainstream politics is not very helpful in that.
We'll come back to that disconnect between mainstream politics and people's realities on the ground. But before we do that, I remember, I think one of the first pro-immigrant American song that I heard was Woody Guthrie, Deportees. And I think there are a number of, especially, from South America, artists from South America who've got a connection with the US, who are also working with ideas around forced migration, the deaths that take place when people are moving. How are you also seeing the same thing? Is this prevalent, or is it, marginal, fringe?
I think there is. Are you asking about how I'm seeing artists and things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a big thing, because it's a way to communicate that bypasses people having to read a newspaper or listen to a podcast. And when this is done as public art, it can be very effective too. You don't have to buy a ticket necessarily and go to some, theater, but when there's things that are done in public or in the summer outdoor art festivals, film festivals get a lot of coverage. And I think that's grown. I mean, even in my town, which is not super big, we have a lot of film festival activity and bring in a lot of short films that would be from international points of view, things like that. That seems helpful.
How about you, Bethlehem? What are you seeing in Ethiopia? How are deaths, being reported in the media, and also how are you aware of any artists who are working with these themes, or with themes such as we are talking about today?
Well, in Ethiopia, as much as people hear about what's happening in Gaza and also in DRC and Congo and everything, I would say that our community is more focused on the conflicts and wars that are happening in our country. And also with inflation as well, they're more concerned on that. And I also see young people advocating for Philistine and what's happening. And Congo is recently coming up, and since they're getting media coverage currently, people are speaking about it. But aside from that, people are more concerned about the days that is happening here in Ethiopia and the wars that are happening here. And yeah, there are some issues here as well. And that's more concerning for our community. And regarding for Philistine, yes, I have seen a lot of people, me as well, speaking about it and seeing it. Some people see it in a political way, some see it as a human right way. They speak about the loss of the children that's happening, also the mothers, everybody. And they don't have defense system, and it doesn't make sense. It's genocide. At the first time, we all thought it was self-defense that we could understand, but now it's come to the point that it's out of a humanitarian action, in a sense of it's kind of seen as a cruelty. And yeah, young people, especially young people, since they're the one leading the media, the social media, the internet world, they're speaking about it, as half of our community is a Muslim community. They also stand for what's happening in Palestine. And that's what it looks like currently.
How about you, Sarah? What are you seeing? What happens in Egypt, especially around deaths, the kinds of deaths we're talking about?
Actually, as my sister, she's a screenwriter, so she tried to do something for that. I don't know yet what is it exactly, but I know that she has a project with her friends about that. And a lot of my friends who are graduated from the same year in my university, I can see that not all of them their art now is drawing. You can find a music group and theater group. So I think they all working about the same idea. And you know, as Egypt has a history with occupation before from Israel as well, and we have a problem with Rafah crossing right now because they bombed the Rafah crossing like 4 times right now to ban the aid getting in. And a lot of Egyptians sitting and stayed for days in front of the gate before opening it in the first time to let the aid get in for our brother and sister in Gaza. And till now, I think they are trying. A lot of not only artists, normal people from Egypt standing in front of the Rafah crossing, trying to do anything for this for our brother and sister inside. So yeah, I think not only people. I think Egyptian actors as well. Egyptian actors try to do a lot of speeches as much as they can in different places around the world, in UK, in Dubai, in Sydney, and I've seen a lot of Egyptian actors did the same. They're using their power as much as they can. Actually, I believe in art. I believe in art actually in all ways, in art, in filming, in photos, in even journalists. I can see them artists. So I believe in art as a way to show the world the truth, and all of the civilizations, our own civilization around the world is stand up with art. So I believe in art as a way, writing, drawing, music, filming, photograph, everything. I believe in it because it's really a way, and no one can present thoughts. No one can present thoughts. So it has wings to fly. It has a power, and it has a hope.
And do you get a sense of how, you know, like, let's say artists in Egypt are responding to the deaths, such as the ones that are taking place in Tunisia, around the Mediterranean,
I
and
think
also in
they
the DRC?
talk a lot, but I don't know specific events actually because I'm here for a long time, like 2 years, and all what I know is from social media and from my friends on their walls. I can see that their events and their thoughts and what they are doing and this stuff. So, but I believe there is a lot. Yeah, I can see even the graffiti in the walls in Egypt. It's too much. Yeah, all the world in Egypt now speaking about our brother and sister in Gaza. I can see more, and actually, I want to share with you my last painting. It's just on the stand to get dry. I will show it to you right now. Actually, about honoring the dead. So
Yeah.
this one, and in the background there is a lot of names of killed people. I try to write a lot here. I try to write a lot here of names. I hope that you can see. It's not all the name, of course, and no one can write all the names because as we know, it's a genocide, thousands of people. But I'll try to use their names always in my artwork. Because their names for me, it's very important. It represents a lot of what's happening there, and I really believe that they deserve to be remembered. They can't pass away like that.
And this is going to be my last question on this. And do you get a sense of what artists or others in Egypt are doing around Sudanese refugees?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Do you get a sense of what artists are doing around the needs of Sudanese refugees?
Yeah, I think because before Gaza events, there a lot of drama and a lot of very, very hard stuff happened in Sudan as well. Our neighbors in South. So we have a lot of refugees now from Sudan. And actually in my, because I live, my family and me live in Cairo, so I can see when I went in Egypt for summer holiday, I can see a lot of Sudan's people and brothers and sisters from Sudan are living in Cairo right now. I think they are involved as much as they can in if they can involve it in activities or kind of arts like theaters or workshop. I think they can do that, yes. And it might be a lot of projects which is cooperation from Egyptian and Sudan's as well. I don't know specifically actually, but I know that it should exist.
How about you, Sarah? Why are memorializations important? Why do we do it? And are there ways that we can do it better?
Well, I was thinking about that looking at your painting, Sarah, because the names are so important. And we see that a lot in memorialization, is people wanting to have the names remembered, and oftentimes who's ever perpetrated the crimes wants those names forgotten. You know, like, so you can see a mass grave and there'll be no names, you know, or even in some places like in Cambodia, they memorialize with just piles of bones, human remains, and that evokes a horror, but it doesn't evoke humanity of who the, you know, like a 16-story thing full of human remains and bones is just horrifying. But when you have a name, it creates the person out of that, and that seems very important. And I've seen it done in various ways. So I don't see a lot of names in Rwandan memorials or Cambodian memorials. In the Srebrenica, the memorial to the genocide that the Serbs perpetrated against the men and boys there, they have names and they have birth dates and the date of death, and they have a memorial stone for them there. But so often people just are nameless. And so to inscribe the name, or to have, sometimes even in a visitor book, people then will inscribe names of the people, you know, when they've come and they have a connection to people who have died there. And it's a real erasure to not have the names of people who were killed. It basically kind of says, you don't exist, or you never existed, or we don't care. And it's hard when there's 1 million people killed, but that's part of the erasure, is like to make it so complete that people think, well, we can't remember these people as individuals anymore. And that seems very important. And often I think there's European organizations often partner with places like Rwanda to help fund and plan their memorials. Aegis Trust in Britain does a lot of that work, and they tend to kind of homogenize what's being remembered, so that if you go to a number of different countries, you start to see the same things. A wall of photographs, or, a flame or a fountain. And some of that, according to people who live there, doesn't really mean much to them. And I talked to Rwandans who said that the government, Paul Kagame's government, was disinterring people from their family burial areas and bringing the remains to put into mass graves in Kigali. So it's making a political statement. Look at all of these mass graves, but it's actually doing a real injury to the families who didn't want to have their loved one taken out of their family place. And in Cambodia too, this use of remains I've been told that it does not fit with their religion to not cremate a person, or to use traditional types of prayers and burials, and to just display remains. It's hard to imagine people doing that with European victims, and it seems to be something that the Europeans who are helping build these things are comfortable with doing for people in farther places or distant suffering or different races. So what I look at sometimes is how Western influences on memorialization can lead to this sort of dominant narrative, because they're usually working with the government, which often is complicit in whatever the atrocity happened. And so it means something very different to foreigners who come to visit versus the people that would make a pilgrimage there. And so in Rwanda, people do private memorials that aren't sanctioned by the government because that's what means more to them. And there could be a lot more study of those sorts of things, the private, neighborhood, local ways of remembering, which are probably a lot more important than how the government decides to tell the story of what happened.
Maybe while we're there, you could also say something about narratives. I don't know, because in your article you talk about narratives.
I do.
And you also talk about the power that comes with narratives, the control for narratives, the control of the past, the present, the future.
That's true. I write a lot about how even while an atrocity is going on, the different parties are in fierce competition to tell the story of what's happening. And of course, Israel and Palestinians, it's so obvious that even the language that you use, the terms and concepts will reveal kind of where your sympathies lie or which story you find most persuasive. And so in all of these places, as soon as things start going, there's competition to be the one who gets their story in first and gets it nailed down as to this is what's happening. And so I've seen that in every conflict I've studied, because it doesn't just tell you about the past. If you can see what the story, like the main story is, it tells you who has the political power at the present and who's going to be able to shape it for the future. When you define something as a genocide versus self-defense, those are such wildly different concepts of what's going on. And we then have competing narratives. But each side in all of these things, like with Ukraine and Russia, they have to get out what is the story. And for Ukraine, it's life or death what the story comes out as. If it's they are a noble nation fighting patriotically against the Russians and things like that, they can get help from outside. But if that narrative crumbles, then people will just forget about it. And, you know, Westerners and especially Americans love the good guy, bad guy story, right? We absolutely want to have somebody who we can say, this is the hero. They're innocent, they're honest, you know, they don't want any flaws in the hero. And then the bad guy has to be all the way bad. So it doesn't leave room for the actual nature of humanity or the nature of politics, whereby, you know, nobody's a saint, right? You know, if your hero turns out to have flaws, a lot of times Americans are just done with that. You know, we've watched too many Westerns or something. And that can create narratives that aren't really accurate. They're the narratives people are attracted to. And the narrative of a memorial is also the same thing. It's made to attract people. Because if you build a memorial and nobody comes, then there's no point in it. And if you build it and you need the foreign currency of people who are coming to visit it, then your narrative is focused outward and tells a story that usually exonerates the current government. Like in Cambodia, the narrative is, this happened under the Khmer Rouge a long time ago. It was terrible. Luckily, they're not here anymore. Whereas actually the leader of Cambodia is deeply tied to the Khmer Rouge and continues all kinds of terrible policies. But that's the narrative that Westerners will leave with, is the manipulated one.
And then this is for all of you. When I think of honoring the dead, and also when I think of memorialization and remembering, it's not just the remembering or the thinking or the memorialization. It's also as a way of trying to remember what happened. And not only that, but also to try and see, you know, how we can use lessons from this thing that happened, this atrocity that happened, to make sure that there are no other atrocities like this. I mean, this is my view. What are yours? What do you think we are doing when we are honoring the dead or memorializing them? And why are we doing it? And why are we failing in doing that, in preventing, you know, these things from happening again? And this is for all of you.
I don't know who should go first.
You can start, Bethlehem.
If you have something to say, Bethlehem.
Well, honoring and memorizing those who have lost their lives is not only an act of remembrance, but a crucial step towards acknowledging the magnitude of this loss. And communities, organizations, individuals, like globally, all over the world, are contributing for these efforts through art, activism, and other events. For example, I was in Cairo last November, and I was actually seeing what was happening and how the people really stand, and it's happening all over the country, in the sense of it happening in Ethiopia, and I saw it happening also in Kenya, and I saw it happening in Cairo as well. And it kind of, I saw the unity. Even if we're in different places, we stand for something, we stand for human rights, and that we acknowledge it. And that was something beautiful. And the initiatives that we have, these initiatives matters as they not only pay tributes, but also raise awareness and fostering collaborative sense of responsibility. And the sense of, as a human, we have a responsibility to advocate and speak for what's happening. While commendable efforts exist, it is crucial for recognizing areas where more needed to be done. Not all days receives attention they deserve. we have to be honest, there are some that we couldn't cover, and marginalized voices may not be unheard as well. Efforts should be directed toward inclusivity and ensuring that every life lost is acknowledged and remembered and honored. And that's something that when I saw this event that's happening in the film festival, I was very interested. I didn't see any one of them doing it, and everybody's thinking about the future, but we have to go past, and that's how we really acknowledge and remember and honor them, so that we can move forward and speak for those who are living as well. This indoors matters as they contribute to a broader narrative of empathy, justice, and human rights. Through we create a space for healing, understanding, solidarity, and it is an opportunity for societies to reflect on the need of change, amplifying the urgency of addressing sympathetic issues leading for these tragic events, in my concern. And yeah, this is what I have to say.
How about Sara Abdelnasser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with her. Yeah. I can see the people now in different places in the world, not only in this area in Middle East, standing up for the same thing. And a lot of people now want to make search to know the truth, which is never happened before. And I can find this point is an amazing point, actually. It's like a victory, because a lot of people now doesn't take the information just like that. They try to search and know the truth. And it's different. It's a very important factor for me. So because of that, a lot of people now unite to behind one idea and try to help the people who facing this injustice occupation. And I think I heard a Jewish doctor a few days ago. He's an amazing guy, actually, who speaks that he's speaking about Palestine for a lot of times, but he just gave up few years ago. But now he starts to speak again, and for me, it's something very impressive and amazing, because someone who was really trying all of his life to explain a history and idea from different sides, and because he don't have any hope, he just gave up after a lot of years. But few days that he gave up just few years ago, but now he has opportunity and hope to speak again. And all of this year I never saw him, but I saw him nowadays. And this is the point, that he spent all of his life and I never heard about him. But now I'm following him, and I'm really because I really love this guy because he's so amazing. So I just know him nowadays. It's one of the important things that happens right now, that we know each other, we listen to each other, we are from different countries and different continents, and we are so far away from each other, but now we can see and speak with each other, which is never happened before. So it gives us hope to can solve this deep problem and represent our voices to the world. So I think that a very important idea and very important point, that now we can hear and listen to each other. We can know each other.
And what's the doctor's name?
Doctor name, yeah, actually his name is I wrote it in a paper because I cannot. Just one sec.
Yeah.
Just one sec.
Okay, and if you could also put it in the chat, that would be good.
Yeah. No, I will give I'll give you the name because I wrote it. I wrote it here.
How about you, Sarah? Well, what are your thoughts?
We talk about this never again, and it almost is like a cliche or an oversimplification because that's never been the case. When people say never again, sometimes they might mean never again this exact specific atrocity is going to happen, but it's never the case that people have learned enough from one situation to actually make them stop doing something else. And so the most when I hear people say never again, it's with a real bitterness, because they feel like they've been abandoned. The never again kind of implies that the international community is going to step in and do something. And most of the time when that's happened, it has been either ineffective or counterproductive, it seems to me, in a lot of situations. And so the memorials have oh, do you want to go ahead and show that, Sarah? Or not?
The name, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, Norman Finkelstein.
Okay. All right. I'll look him up.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's start with Norman. Norman is a very familiar face, so you'll never forget. But its second name is a little bit tricky, so
Yeah.
Got
All
it.
right. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I
Yeah,
think
you were saying,
that
Sarah.
the memorials, they have so many audiences and so many purposes that they're overtasked with coming up with, educational. There a lot of school children are taken to these places. They reflect power and who's telling the story. They are supposed to attract tourists and either engage them or educate them. They are meant to be sacred or places of healing for people that want to come there. They create emotional response. There's just so much put on this idea of a memorial, maybe because people would rather do that than actually think what else needs to be done if we're going to actually create more than just this terrible feeling that you might get from being there or whatever a visitor draws from it. It's often very emotional, but it's not often a sort of sense of action that seems to come from it. I talk to my students who have all been to some sort of memorial, abroad or within the US. And only ones that are very carefully done seem to have the effect of helping people understand what's behind all of the gruesome crimes that they're seeing, or that helps them apply it to current issues, for example, and not just think this is all in the past. There's a lynching museum in Alabama that I haven't been to yet, but I've heard actually very good things about how it communicates that this isn't, oh, this thing that happened in the past that other Americans did, that it's more about showing here's how these things, structural things and racist events, have affected everybody and are still affecting everybody. And that seems important to me if we're going to try and have memorials be more than, oh, look at this historical event, or, like some tourists, I talk about dark tourism, where people come for a sort of voyeuristic encounter with death. And it's not uncommon for people to do that, and you'll see them taking pictures of things that you think, really, I don't think that should be something you should just, take pictures of, or buy the t-shirt that says I survived Cambodia with a little landmine symbol on it. I mean, they sell those in the gift shops, and that is not a memorial that's going to create a sense of never again. It's more of like, I can come home and show people this exotic artifact. But it's very frustrating. I don't know how we move towards it seems like a lot of your comments, Ambrose, are about how can we improve? You know, why isn't there progress when we say after each atrocity, oh, well, now we know we have the responsibility to protect, or we have early warning signals for genocide, and none of it really seems to come out in action at the time.
Because one of my concerns is that, you know, with these mass atrocities, to me, they negate most of the concepts that that structure the world that we live in. They negate the concept of justice. They negate the concept of rights. They negate everything, you know. And after that negation, you know, none of those concepts mean anything anymore. And this is actually, you know, speaking for myself personally, this is where I am with what I'm seeing in Gaza, you know, where concepts like justice, you know, they actually don't mean anything, you know, and I'm trying to understand how we move on from this place that we are. So I don't know. Does anyone have any questions? You can also come in on anything that I've said.
Actually, I don't have any questions, but I would like to say that I really want to attend all the days of these events. Unfortunately, I couldn't. I will not do that because of family commitments. But I wish I could, and I want to thank you for having me this day today. I mean. And I wish all the events, conversation, trying to make us have a kind of connection and find some solutions. Even it's kind of, I know it's just a speak or just words, but I believe in words too, that words can do a lot, like water on the stone. Maybe it will be slowly, it doesn't have the same power of weapons, but it has kind of powers, and I really believe in it. So I hope, and by the way, is 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day, is my birthday. So for me, it means something right now.
Yeah.
I never know that before, you know.
No.
I never know that before.
You were born on a very good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it means something for me.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me, and I hope all the days of this event can adding for everyone as it added to me today.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, Stella, do you have any questions?
Are you asking me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't really have any questions. I've just been making lots of notes, and I've just found conversations really fascinating, and I'm really interested in the conversation about, you know, is it getting worse, or is it just that we know more? And I'm just sort of thinking, you know, I'm 60, so I've seen a lot of things come and go, and I'm just reflecting on, you know, that we get different news now. When I was growing up, it was just the BBC, and we know how biased the BBC is, and how problematic they are. And so I think about the coverage of the Vietnam War when I was a child, and many conflicts since. But now we have access to alternative media. We have access to people who are reporting directly from Gaza. We know what's happening now in this moment from the people who are experiencing it. And I think that the quality of that is so different. And so we feel it differently. We know more. We're more consciously, those of us who make the effort are more consciously aware of the you know, genocides that are happening in the world, and that brings with it, I suppose, some responsibility. So I'm sort of I'm interested in what's our responsibility, particularly those of us who are creative people, and, you know, looking at Sara's pictures, and what do we do with our creativity when we're faced with that? that interests me. It's not really a question. I've just been kind of reflecting as I'm listening, and I also wanted to say thank you so much to everyone. It's been, it's been a really wonderful conversation. I've really learned a lot, and it's really made me reflect and think. So I just wanted to express my gratitude, really.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't know, among the people who are listening in, is there anyone who wants to say anything? If you do, if you unmute yourself, you can put your question to the speakers. Okay, I think, yes, Lynn.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you also for your open and honest and thoughtful reflections. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Is this for one person in particular, or is for everyone?
For everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Is there anyone else who wants to say something?
I really thank you, Sarah, for sharing your art. That's just, words and art seems to win, I think, in terms of how it communicates. And the way you talked about it was really, really moving and important, and helps explain the significance of what you're doing. So I think it's really important. I'm not necessarily an artist. I'm more of a wordsmith. So I really enjoy seeing how powerful all of these things are.
Thank
Different
you.
avenues. Yeah, thank you.
So because of where we are with the time, we come back to you, our speakers. Do you have any final words or something that you'd like to emphasize before we end?
Okay. I would love to say thank you for giving me this chance, and a sense of I have the opportunity to meet these amazing people, and also the audience as well. And also to gather here in this aspect of human rights, and also honoring and the ones that we lost. I express for the future, where we commemorate for the life we lost, and only tribute for catalyzing for the change. And let's have all work together for human rights and in universal protection for each individual. And I would like to say thank you for everybody. And I have one question for Sara, actually. On one of your paintings, the last one that you showed us, where you have the names of every people that we lost in Gaza. Yes, exactly. I want to know why watermelon?
Yeah, actually, it's a good question. It's a good one. Look, as I told you, I study history all my life, but I had a new information a few weeks ago about this watermelon that I never knew that the watermelon represent a Palestinian flag and Palestinian culture. That's because as a story which I know, that there is an artist, they try to ban them to draw Palestinian flag in his drawing, and he told everyone, no worries, there are a lot of ways so you can represent your thoughts and what you really believe in. You can represent Palestinians even with a piece of watermelon. And from this moment, it becomes like a symbol of the Palestinian flag. I never know this story before. Although I know a lot of Palestinian artists and Palestinian writers, but I never heard about this one before. From this time to now, I can see watermelons in everywhere in social media represent Palestine. So I just use it in my painting to present Palestine as well. And I try to make the names in the background that it's Palestinian background.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I was actually wondering, like when I saw it, I was like, why watermelon?
Yeah, I asked
It's
the same, when I suddenly saw watermelons in everywhere, I said, why watermelon? Why watermelon? Did I miss something? And
Thank
yes,
you for asking, Bethlehem. I thought, why watermelon? But then I thought, I'm going to look ignorant if I ask. There's probably something here that everybody else knows about.
because of that, I asked my sister.
I was waiting for this moment actually. I was curious when I saw it. It's like from all these paintings that she showed us, she can put a lot of people's faces, and choosing
Yeah.
watermelon looks, it looks very suspicious. That means it has something, like, I was very curious.
It's Palestinian scarf, so both of them represent Palestine right now.
Wow, I never knew this. That's so amazing.
Yeah. For me, it was impressive. Like, what? Really? Okay. Because as Sarah said, I know everyone knows except me, so I don't want to ask. But because of that, I asked my sister. So please tell me the story about the watermelon. Why watermelon? Everyone uses it. Even me, I use it without knowing what it means. What does it mean?
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much. This is a new information that I just knew.
Yeah, you're most welcome. You're most welcome.
I don't know, Sarah. Do you have final words or anything you'd like to emphasize?
Not really. I really appreciate your questions and the way you framed the concerns here. I really think that was very helpful in drawing out some of the ideas that I've been thinking about too, to put it in this context of honoring the dead. So I appreciate that, and I think we just have to keep going forward, even when it feels like things are pushing us backward. And it's wonderful to talk to people who are activists about this and encouraging, because that's really such valuable, it's such valuable work, and it's really valuable to communicate that message and example as well. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on that note, I'll say thank you to everyone who attended, and also thank you to our speakers, Sara, Bethlehem Tesfu Estifanos, and also Sarah Kenyon Lisha for your contributions today. Today, honoring the dead is part of the Leicester Human Rights Arts and Film Festival. The festival continues tomorrow with Fighting for the Living, where we look at similar questions, but focus on how we fight for each other, for the living, for people vulnerable, marginalized, are going through difficulties. The festival itself will finish on the 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day. And what we've also done is we've declared the month of December to be both Ceasefire Month and Genocide Awareness Month, and the 4th to the 10th of December to be both Ceasefire Week and Genocide Awareness Week, and the 10th of December to be Human Rights Day, and also Ceasefire Day and Genocide Awareness Day. So I hope you can join us for the other events that are taking place as part of the festival. And without more from me, I say thank you very much, and have a brilliant rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.